Being busy doesn't mean that you are profitable. Welcome to another Wellness Wednesday Live. I am your host, Chastity Grady, at my company, Grady Tax Plus. It is our number one goal to make sure that we are keeping the IRS out of your pockets so that you can live, hallelujah, so that you can live a better life. Why? Because you deserve it. And on Wednesdays we do our Wellness Wednesdays live where I talk to you about being well, right? Being well from a personal standpoint, financial standpoint, a business standpoint, tax standpoint, whatever standpoint that I'm led to talk about that day. This is what Wednesdays are dedicated to. I do a mixture of blending my behavioral insight as a licensed clinical social worker background with my financial expertise to help you be the best business owner, to be the best person that you can be in the world. So here we go. We're talking about being busy doesn't mean you are profitable. And we hear this often, right? Oh, I'm so busy, right? But I need to say something to you today. And it might sting, okay? All right. I'm going to say something to you today, and it might sting, but it will set you free. But it will set you free. So go ahead and share this live out. I just took the opportunity to share this live out to a couple groups. So busy, like I said, busy doesn't mean that you are profitable. You can be fully booked, you can be overwhelmed, and still not have financial security, right? Oftentimes we equate being booked and busy with meaning that someone has financial security, and the two do not coexist. Oftentimes we think that when somebody says, oh, I'm booked and I'm busy, or you see someone all over the place, or you may be all over the place, but that does not equate to you being financially secure. Now I'm gonna pause for a second because I know you probably wasn't ready. You probably was not ready for me to say that because, again, like I said, we hear this all the time. We normalize being busy. We normalize being booked. We normalize having our calendar filled up. But what does the finances look like? Do we have any financial security that's existing, that's existing with being booked, with having a full calendar, with being busy? Do we have financial security that is also attached to that? And the problem is that when we're so booked and busy, right? When we're so booked and busy and there's no financial reward attached to that, that is where burnout starts. That is where burnout starts when you are fully booked, when you're booking busy, when you're all over the place, and there's no financial reward on the other side of that. That is where some burnout can start to happen, right? That is where burnout start to happen. And I said this before, many of you, as service-based business owners, as service-based leaders, as providers, sometimes we measure success. Sometimes we measure success by how full our calendar looks, right? Having back-to-back sessions, having constant emails, always responding, always being on, right? But again, that activity, that's not the same. Having all of those things, having back-to-back sessions, having multiple emails to respond to, and all the things, that does not always mean, and it's not the same thing as being profitable, right? Having a profitable business. So movement is not the same as money. Ooh. Having movement does not mean that you also have money. Listen, we're talking about being well. When we talk about being well, we're talking about being well from a holistic standpoint, not just mentally, but we want to be financially well as well. We want to be financially well as well because otherwise, what is the point? I tell y'all this all the time. What if you don't if you're not financially successful in business, then otherwise, what is the point? What is the point? Often I know, God, he burdens us and he gives us purpose. He gives us passion to do things. But that purpose and that passion, it comes with the reward. He says, I have plans to prosper you, not harm you. So if you're doing a lot of movement, but there's no money attached, then what are we doing? What are we doing? So I'm gonna give y'all some reasons as to why being busy doesn't equate. Being busy doesn't equal. Being busy is not the same as being profitable. So you can start making some changes so you can reflect and look at, oh, I am just really being busy, but there's no profit behind it, and it's causing me to be burned out. It's causing me to be tired. It's causing me to not want to show up. Listen, I'm about to give y'all these reasons. I'm gonna give y'all 4 reasons, okay? And here's number one. Number one is when you don't have a clear pricing strategy. Now, I talk with my social workers and therapists who I work with about this often when it comes to pricing themselves, looking at taking insurance, should you take insurance or not, all the things, right? But here's the thing, when your rates, whatever you charge an hour, whatever you charge for your service, if your rates does not reflect the expenses you have to pay, taxes, your take home goals, then you can work all day. You can have those back to back sessions all day, but still feel behind. You can have those back to back sessions, you can work all day, but if the pricing, if your rates don't reflect the expenses, the business expenses, the taxes you're going to have to take out, and your take home goals, what you need to pay you, then you can work all day and still feel behind. That's one of the ways how being busy does not necessarily mean being profitable. If how you're pricing yourself, it doesn't account for those things, right? Because guess what? Sometimes you think, oh, I just need to have more sessions. I just need to have more clients. But having more clients, more sessions, it won't fix you undercharging yourself. It won't fix you undercharging yourself. It's just going to make you be more overworked, more busy, and even less profitable. Okay? Number two, when you have no expense awareness. When you have no expense awareness. So that, what does that mean? If you don't know your actual monthly business expenses, meaning you don't know like the break, like you don't know how much you're spending a month in certain categories, right? When we talk about categories, that means that there's every dollar, I say this all the time, every dollar has to be assigned somewhere. Is it assigned to advertising? Is it assigned to office expense? Is it assigned to paying people to work for you? Whatever that is, right? You have to know where your dollars are going. Okay? You have to know that. You might think you're making money, but after you spend money on all the things, right? And then accounting for taxes, what is actually left? What do you actually have left over? What is that bottom line, right? When we think about profit being profitable, we're looking at the net profit, right? The revenue minus the expenses equals your net profit. And what is left over, that is what you actually have, right? So what does your leftover look like? What does your leftover look like? Because if you're thinking you're busy doing all the work, and you think being busy equates to income, and then you think being busy equates to having profit, you might want to look at all the factors, right? You might want to look at all the things. We have to break all of this down, right? We have to break it all the way down. That's why bookkeeping is important. That's why we have to look at our numbers often, not when it's time to file taxes. Yes, we're in a tax season, and this is not the time that we start looking at our numbers, right? We should have already done that throughout the year, and we're just ready to close out that year. We're just waiting on providers or whoever to send us our tax documents so that we can close out the year. This is not the time. This is not the time that you take to start reviewing what did I do in 2025. This is not the time. And oftentimes we've been conditioned to start thinking about last year in the current year, and you're already behind if you're doing that, because you can't even focus all of your energy, you can't focus all of your creativity on 2026 because you haven't properly closed out 2025. You have to properly close out 2025, and one of the ways you do that is by having your bookkeeping together, having your income organized, your expenses organized, everything reconciled, everything accounted for, to include on the tax return, which is the final thing that we would need to do to close out 2025. And I said this before, and I'm gonna say it again. The longer you go holding on to prior years, prior tax years that have not been filed, the longer you're holding on to all of the weights, the energy that goes along with all of that, right? Oh my goodness. Listen, we want to be well. We want to be well. Okay, I gotta keep going. I gotta keep going. Number three, not having any tax planning. Okay, not having any tax planning is what can happen when you're being very busy, and thinking you're profitable when you're not, right? And this is where it gets real. This is where it gets real when we're talking about the taxes, right? Because if you're not setting money aside for taxes correctly, let me say correctly, because I get that people are putting money aside for taxes, but what you're putting aside is like $50, $100, and you think that is going to carry you over it, and it's not, especially if you're making six figures and beyond or close to it, right? So if you're not setting aside taxes correctly, the correct amount, then that busy season of income, when you have, like, when you're making money. Some of you, this is the busy season for you. Some of you, a lot of your clients, they had their new year resolution goals. They're ready to get their mental wellness in order. If you're a social worker and therapist, and listen, they're in therapy right now, they're in coaching right now, and this may be one of the best parts of the year for you, because people start the year wanting to be well. People start the year with wanting to be well, so they book the sessions, they do all of the things, right? And this may be a really good season for you income wise. But you have to recognize and you have to understand that all the income that you make is not all yours. And I know that's a tough pill to swallow. I know that's a tough pill to swallow, but it's the truth. All the money that you make is not yours. I'll tell y'all about 5 buckets that the money needs to go into. Okay, after you make your revenue, after you have your business expenses, what's left over, it belongs in other places. Okay, you have taxes, which is what we're talking about right now. Taxes. You have paying you. You have saving. You have investing. You have retirement. There's so many other buckets. There's so many other buckets that it can go to. But what it doesn't go to is all of you. It doesn't go all in your pocket. Part of let's just be real. Let's be honest with ourselves. Part of what we make does go to the IRS, but through tax planning, we could plan for how much of it that we want to go to the IRS. As a business owner, you are in the best position that you can be in tax wise, because the IRS does not know what you are making right now. They don't know what you're spending. They don't know any of that, but you do. So you have an advantage that because I know what I'm making, because I know what I'm spending, what tax strategies, what tax planning techniques can I use to lower how much to set aside for taxes for the IRS or states if you have a state income tax? What can I do? Right? What can I do? So that's where tax planning comes in. Okay, let me move on to number 4. Number 4 is, we talked about this already, but I got to bring it back. Having no systems. Having no systems when you're busy and you're being busy, 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 but you have no systems in place that will help you be profitable, right? So if your back end is messy, busy just multiplies the mess. When your back end is messy, being busy, all it does is multiply the mess on top of mess on top of mess. And if you're not profitable because you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so busy, but I don't see the results manifesting for me financially, then you getting more clients. That means more transactions, more deductions to track, and more complexity. Right, more complexity. I just told you that we need to have bookkeeping. And without bookkeeping, busy becomes overwhelming instead of being empowering, right? When we think of being booked and busy, it should be empowering, right? It should be empowering to us. Like, yes, I'm booked and busy. I can see this being manifested to me financially. But if you are being booked and busy, but it's not manifesting for you in a financial sense, there's no financial reward, then being booked and busy is just going to come with being overwhelmed. Being booked and busy is just going to come with being overwhelmed. So that's why wellness matters. That's why being well in all areas matters, right? Because when you're busy but you're not profitable, you'll feel resentment, you'll feel exhausted, you will question your business. You will even maybe consider quitting, like this is not for me, right? Not because you're incapable, but because the structure isn't supporting you, right? That's why I said we gotta have our systems in place, right? I think I did this live last week where I said you don't need more clients, you need systems. You need a system in place, whether that's a financial system, administrative system, whatever it is, you need a system in place. Because otherwise, exhaustion, being exhausted without progress, you just feel defeated. And that's why we don't want that. That's why we don't want that. We want real success. And real success isn't just a full calendar because if you price yourself right, you don't necessarily need a full calendar to be profitable. You don't need necessarily a full calendar. You can see a smaller a number of clients if you're pricing yourself right. That's what real success look like. Real success is predictable income. It's clear. You have a clear profit. You're controlling your tax obligations, right? And you have that peace at night that I love to talk about, sleeping good at night. That's what happens, right? That's what being profitable looks like, right? When you have predictable income, you have a clear profit, what I'm taking home, right? What's my bottom line? And you are controlling your tax obligations. Did you know that you can even control your tax obligations? I talked about that through tax planning. You'll control your tax obligations as a business owner because the IRS don't know. The IRS does not, they do not know what you are making in this month. They do not know if somebody's going to pay you today. They do not know. But when you're an employee, they know quarterly because your employer is sending that to the IRS saying, yes, I paid them this much. We took out this much for taxes. Taxes, they're doing that. But for your business, the IRS just wants you to estimate. That's why we have to pay quarterly taxes. That's why you have estimated taxes. The IRS wants you to estimate what's going on in your business. Estimate it for us because we don't know, but you do. And because you know, you can create profitability in your business, which creates options for you. And those options create freedom. Those options create freedom. So if you're busy, but you're unsure of what you're actually keeping, that's your sign. If tax season makes you nervous, even though you worked hard all year, that's your sign, right? That's your sign. That's exactly why being well and evaluating your wellness from all angles, that's why it's so important. Because if you're feeling stressed in certain areas, what is the cause of that? What's going on for you, right? That's why I say bookkeeping matters. Bookkeeping matters because when your numbers are clear, when you know what's going on, you know what to adjust. You don't have to guess, right? You don't have to have that uncertainty feeling or feeling uneasy about your finances, right? So, my call to action for you is that if you're tired of being busy, but still feeling financially unsure, insecure, then that's why I'm here. I said my goal is for you to be financially successful in business while keeping the IRS out of your pockets. And one of the ways that we do this is by managing your money, is by accurately preparing your tax return. But in order for us to accurately prepare your tax return, you do need your numbers evaluated, right? You need your numbers evaluated. You need someone to come in and look at that. Especially if you say to you numbers is not your thing, then why are you still dealing with them? Why have you not given that over to someone like myself, right? In business, we have to make decisions that is going to help our business grow to the next level, right? When you think of having a business, you don't want your business to be stagnant. You can have a job and be stagnant in it. You can be a job and only go so far. But when you're in business, the sky is the limit. Although we don't see it that way, we see the ceiling and we think, oh, that's as far as I can go. But in business, the sky is the limit if you position yourself right. That's why mental wellness matters, because sometimes we need to change our mindset. And I tell y'all this before. When you change your mind, you can change your money. When you change the way you think about things, you can change your financial situation. When you start thinking of yourself in a different way, when you stop putting limits on yourself, when you stop thinking, oh, I just have this little thing going on. When you stop doing all of that stuff, you can change your financial situation. You can actually grow in your business. You can actually be a huge deal if you want to be. If you want to be. So on tonight at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, I am doing a free informational session to learn about working with me, to learn about my company, to learn about the back end side of things. If you are someone who wants to file, you're ready, you're like, you know what, I'm ready to file. My numbers are good. I'm okay. I just need you to make sure to keep the IRS out of my pockets. And if you need more support or if you need more assistance in making that decision, then that is what my free informational sessions are for. I do those every 2 weeks until April 1st. So tonight we're doing another one, and the next one will be on March the 4th. Okay. But if you're someone, you're like, you know what, Chastity? I'm already ready to file my tax return. I know that you're the one who's supposed to do it. I just put a link in the comments for you to choose your tax package. Okay. On my website, I'm very transparent when it comes to pricing. I'm very transparent when it comes to pricing. Sorry, I had to pause because I feel like I was going to sneeze. Okay, it went away. Yes, I'm very transparent, which means that what you see on the website is there, right? You don't have to get on a call with me to find out what my pricing is. Is there. Based on your tax situation, I have it broken down. I even have a graph for you, right? I even have a graph for you to see that, so you can see how it's broken down based on your tax situation. Okay, so that link is in the comments for you to choose your tax package. The most popular one is the gold. That's if you have one business and you're not an S corp, right? So if you're an independent contractor, you're a sole proprietor, you have a DBA, maybe you just have your LLC or PLLC, but you're not an S corp, and it's just the one thing, then that will be the gold package. Okay, that will be the gold package. So that link is in the comments, and then again, the other link I put there for you to join the informational session tonight. You can sign up, or you can sign up for one in the future, because we'll have three more. Okay, we'll have three more of those until April the 1st. Okay, so as I come to a close, I had to give you my benediction. In every live that I do when it comes to me presenting myself to you, the public, right? So, so part of where part of where I am going in my business involves me being transparent with where my help comes from, right? And my help comes from the Lord. And the reason why I've been commissioned, well, I don't have to tell you the reason why. You just need to know that I am. You just need to know that I am, okay? I don't have to explain anything. You just need to know that I am commissioned as a follower of Jesus, to let people know the good news, to tell people the good news and not miss an opportunity to give people the good news. So if you watch my lives, just know somewhere in my life, you are going to get the good news. Okay. And so the scripture that we're using in this season is John chapter 10. And this, yes, it's a good scripture from a spiritual standpoint, but from a practical business standpoint, it's also a good reference for you. If you are someone who struggle with, you know what, I actually just do need more clients, Chastity. I know you say I don't need more clients, I just need to work on my pricing. But I am someone who I do need more clients, and I don't know where they're coming from, and I don't know how to get them. Well, in John chapter 10, when the Jews were questioning Jesus, they were like, how long are you going to keep our soul in suspense? If you are the Christ, just tell us, right? If you are the Christ, just tell us. And so Jesus responded to them. He said, I did tell you. I told you, but you did not believe me. The works I do, they testify concerning who I am, but you do not believe me because you are not my sheep. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. And I will pause there. Oftentimes you're like, I'm very talented, my work speaks for itself and all the things, but people, maybe they don't believe and what you can do for them. And sometimes you just have to recognize when someone is or is not your sheep, when someone is not the person that you're supposed to serve. However, the scripture tells us that in order to get to the people who we are called to serve, they need to hear our voice. They need to hear our voice. You sending emails all day, putting posts all day, putting up flyers all day. Those people can't hear your voice. They're creating a voice in their head concerning you if you have not shown up on live, if you have not published a video explaining anything about you, if you have not verbally been in places where people can hear your voice. The scripture tells us that when they hear my voice, they follow. So when people hear a certain part of your voice, it's something about your voice, it's something about the way you talk, it's something about the way they receive the confirmation that lets them know that you are the one, right? But they have to hear your voice. So I'm encouraging you to start allowing people to hear your voice. If you're afraid of allowing people to hear your voice, then you're afraid to make money. Let's just put it out there. If you are afraid to allow people to hear your voice, then you are afraid to make money. And why are you in business? Why are you in business if you're afraid to make money? Because how are you going to financially support yourself? How are you going to be financially successful in business if you are afraid for people to hear your voice? Okay, so that's why I go live. Monday through Friday, I'm here around the 7:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. In obedience, I will put the actual time out there publicly. But that's why I go live. Because there's people who have to hear my voice. There's certain people that are assigned to my voice that I'm supposed to shepherd, and they don't know that I'm supposed to shepherd them in this season in their life if they don't hear me. Right? If they do not hear me. And they can't just hear me once. It has to be repetitious. It has to be repetitive. Okay? So ultimately, my call to action for you is that, because I am commissioned to give the good news, is that ultimately, if you hear Jesus' voice, then follow him. Okay? Then follow him. So I hope y'all have an amazing, what's today? Wednesday? I almost forgot. Wellness Wednesday. Thank you, Lionel. I hope y'all have an amazing Wellness Wednesday. Hashtag replay if you're catching the replay. I hope something in this video lets you know that just because you're being busy doesn't mean that you are profitable, okay? Just because you're busy doesn't mean it equates to having money in the bank. Shawty, what you think? It does not equate to that, right? It does not equate to that, right? But the 4 things that I gave you in this video, it does. The 4 things that I gave you in this video, if you follow them, then that will lead to you having profit. That will lead to you being financially successful in business, which is the goal, while keeping the IRS out of your pockets. We'll be back here on Thursday for Talk to Me Thursday, and Friday for Fire Your Boss Friday. And I will see you in the next one.